Welcome to Clothing Culture, a fashion industry podcast at the intersection of technology and innovation. I'm Emily Lane.
And I'm Bret Schnitker. We speak with experts and disruptors who are moving the industry forward
And discuss solutions to real industry challenges.
Clothing Culture is brought to you by Stars Design Group, a global design and production house with more than 30 years of experience.
Welcome back to Clothing Culture. In honor of Women's History Month, we're revisiting a powerful conversation from our archive that highlights the impact of women leading and shaping the fashion industry. In this episode, Bret Schnitker and I sit down with former CEO of Vogue and Condé Nast in Mexico and Latin America, Eva Hughes, a trailblazer in the global fashion media. Eva shares her journey to the top of one of the industry's most influential companies and reflects on what it meant to lead in spaces that have traditionally been male-dominated. She opens up about the importance of self-awareness, confidence, and continuous personal growth, while also discussing the realities of balancing personal and professional life. Eva also speaks candidly about embracing uncertainty and why vulnerability can be one of the most powerful tools a leader can have. It's an inspiring conversation with a true powerhouse in fashion and a fitting one to revisit as we celebrate Women's History Month. Let's jump in. Welcome back to another episode of Clothing Culture. We are recording this episode in the heart of Women's History Month, and we thought it would be wonderful to bring a very vibrant, influential woman onto the podcast to talk about being a woman in leadership and the challenges that we can face in this space. We are welcoming today Eva Hughes. She's the former CEO of Condé Nast in Latin America and Mexico and founding editor-in-chief for Vogue Latin America and Mexico. Holy smokes, what a resume she has. Today is known for being an incredible speaker, consultant. She's the executive vice president at Instituto Marangoni, Miami. We have a real powerhouse here. And I happen to love, Eva, that you are also a woman who is very dedicated to the empowerment of women. So welcome. Thank you for being here, Eva.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Emily. So happy to be here with you and Bret since our meeting in Miami. Now here doing the podcast. I'm very excited. Very, very excited. Very happy. It's an honor.
We're delighted. We're just absolutely delighted. When we spoke, we had an opportunity to learn a little bit about, some of the challenges that you faced as you were breaking new ground in this industry and in Latin America and Mexico. I'd love for you to share a little bit about maybe some of those key challenges that you discovered managing yourself in what was considered a man's environment.
Well, it's really interesting because in the context of leadership and throughout my career, and because it was focalized in Latin America and I was single and a woman and young, it has been very crucial for me to always emphasize the importance of self-awareness and personal growth. And one of the most significant challenges, of course, being a woman in Latin America was navigating the social norms and expectations. For example, and this is something that we discussed, the scenario where I'm at a dinner and I invite the director of one of the departments at the company with his wife. And then what happens if my husband would have been there, my invisible husband that didn't exist? Who would he talk to? His wife? Or would he talk to him? Who do I talk to? The woman. And these, again, are back to the social norms. And so the challenge is confronting this situation and addressing the situations head on, especially in terms of gender roles and what happens when you're in those situations. Because it's very easy to talk about, what we have to do. Believe in yourself, be confident, own the space that you're in. If you're in the room, believe that you're there for a reason because you deserve it. But what happens when you are in other situations that are more social And especially coming into new generations, because at the time, I was kind of an outsider in the fact that I wasn't married, I didn't have kids. But now more people, more women are going to be encountering that situation. And what's going to happen then? So for me, it was a clear lesson in that self-awareness and awareness of the situation and how to deal with those situations when they come to you. And not to take them either personal as an issue, but rather like, this is what it is. This is what I have to be aware of. And these are the circumstances that are going to happen in these social norms, especially in Latin America, especially, again, like I mentioned, being a woman, young. I was the youngest editor-in-chief. I was 37 when I became CEO. So I think that I had to learn very fast how to adapt to those situations and then reflect on them and how to address them if they ever happen to me. But I still haven't figured out what would I do if I would be in that situation again.
Did you receive any coaching to help you as you are defying social norms?
You know, it's funny because I didn't receive any coaching in terms of the social norms. I don't think, and it's a very valid point that you're bringing in, I never received that coaching. I don't know if it exists. Mm-hmm. Because it's so personal and unique to each one of us. I mean, I wish there would be a book about how to deal with those situations because it depends on the character. Like, for example, me being alone there wasn't probably so difficult. It was a bit more challenging because I had to be a host to both my director in terms of our relationship and his wife from that other relationship. So it's more work, probably. Well, probably not. It is more work. And it requires being in two situations, in two relationships. But that was kind of easier for me. The challenge was with this invisible husband that didn't exist. And so I don't know how you can coach in those circumstances because it would depend a lot on each personality. What I think is probably my conclusion, but not a solution, is if I would be in that situation again, would be to relax. And maybe discuss it beforehand with a partner. Like, this is what's going to happen. Just be aware that his wife is coming and he's there. Remember that, you know, he works with me and let's try to play smart the situation so there's nothing uncomfortable from any of the parties involved. You know, something like that. So again, we go back to one of the leadership skills that I focus a lot on, which is communication, whether it is with a team, whether it's a partner, a friend. So I think maybe that could be an idea, but again, it presents a big challenge.
You talk about the husband that didn't exist. I'm wondering if being in such a visible power of leadership, did that compromise your personal life?
I maybe thought so for a moment or two, but then I've realized that it's just what it was. You know, I'm a firm believer in destiny. And maybe, you know, this is not shared by many people. There are many that think that you create your own destiny. I think that we do create our own destiny, but sometimes we have to let life surprise us, and it has a path for us that we don't understand why certain things happen, why I'm in this situation, and then you get it. So it wasn't for me, but definitely I think it made it much, much harder because I had to interact with a lot of couples, married people in the social scene. There was a social factor to my job. That is something that you don't discuss about because, you know, when you're giving a job description, yes, I have to represent Vogue in different social events, but to really network, you have to be in with certain people and they're married and you're there alone and you have to behave in a certain way. And again, back to those social norms that are very important. I don't know, for a while, again, I thought that it was a factor. And then I've come to understand that I just have to let life be and destiny be and be happy and enjoy my life and not care about anything else.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. I too always try to remain open to possibilities. And if you get yourself too committed to this is what we have to do, this is the path, you limit yourself.
Absolutely.
Along your journey, as you've kept your eyes open for that opportunity, what are some maybe wonderful surprises that came your way?
Well, there have been many, many, many surprises, and many, many accomplishments as well. But definitely surprises in my career. First of all, I never thought that from being a volunteer at South Miami Hospital, taking care of kids, healthy kids, the sons and daughters of doctors and so forth. I still have my uniform, by the way, on my badge. That I would go into working as editor-in-chief of a magazine in Miami when I was 24, and then the rest of my career. And if you would have sat down with me and said, this is what your journey is going to be all about. And by the way, when you think that it's over, you're going to have your own company and you're going to be working at this fashion and design school and you're going to be doing all of these things, I would have looked at you like you're absolutely crazy. And I'm sure that you have a great tarot reader or something like that, but no. And I think that my accomplishment is not mine, because I think that for all the hard work and dedication and passion that I've put forth and resilience and intuition, I am very grateful about the people that have surrounded me always, that have supported my path, that have believed in my vision. Even, the people that I worked for, Selecta, when the owner interviewed me, I went there for an internship position. And she saw something in me that I had not seen. And the same with Condé Nast, when I wasn't really the best option. I was just in Miami, right time, right place. But there were a lot of great editors-in-chief that had been working and waiting for that opportunity who were excessively more talented than me. So I think that at the end is, again, and this is something that I speak to students now at the school and to people that I coach, is that today we live in a life that we need to have the answers for everything. This is my journey, my 5-year plan. This is what's going to happen tomorrow. And I believe in the power of uncertainty. Yes, it can bring you a lot of fear and anxiety, but in uncertainty, there is a path for surprises and for things to happen organically. Back, a few years ago, I didn't understand what was happening. Why are certain things taking place? Why are certain situations, happening? And then I realized is when this is a repeat situation, instead of saying, I don't get it, I am now like, I am sure that there's a reason for this. And I'm going to embrace the lesson. I'm going to embrace the situation and I'm going to make the best out of it. But I think it's, in terms of going back to the accomplishments, it's been working with great people, good people, and also enduring some not nice people that have come into my life, put obstacles on my way, tried to run me over. And I have, had the resilience to not let it happen, not let them drive me off my road and my own journey. So, I could speak of many numbers and many things that I have done, but I think the biggest one is the people that I have worked with, because without those teams at the beginning, when, I didn't have a name of my own in terms of in the industry, credibility, it's those people that believe in you that are probably the ones that you have to be most grateful and most happy that you've encountered yourself with.
You talk about embracing the situation, good and bad, and I'm curious about some of those surprises on that side of it, where this is a difficult situation, and we're going to have to make a pivot here. Can you share with us an example of maybe a difficult challenge that you've had to take on and help overcome? through a new and surprising way?
Well, there have been many challenges in my career. But I have to tell you that I would say, let me highlight like two. One of them is having self-confidence. I think that most people that I encountered throughout my career felt that I was very assured of myself and my beliefs and my ideas. But at the end, I probably wasn't as confident as I projected myself to be. You know, sometimes we come across as somebody, but in reality, we're probably somebody else. You know, it looks good, it sounds good, but is that really how we feel?
And we all have that imposter syndrome to a degree, right?
Right.
You know, we think, oh.
Yes, do I really have it, you know? And what I've learned, what I've had to learn and understand is that the first person that I have to sell the idea onto is not the exterior world, but myself. I can do this. I believe in this. This is a good idea. Do not doubt. Have the confidence that this is the right path. And because my nature has always been to protect and to be careful, like I'm not an adventurer at all. Sometimes I am, but the majority of times I'm much more cautious. That can
Your
really...
career says otherwise. I mean, 24-year-old editor taking on these massive organizations in Latin America. Your experience says otherwise.
Bret,
I think you're underselling yourself a little bit.
I know, but you know what? It was... I can be adventurous in that way, and you're completely right. Yeah. But then, you know, I've been more cautious. So it's having that confidence and believing in myself. And then it's been to really, you know, to really never give up and refusing to let anyone really dictate my boundaries or limit my potential. So that's how I have learned to really trust my intuition and listen to that gut instinct, especially when dealing with uncertainty or my own fear of making mistakes. Mm-hmm. Because I think that it has been really powerful to say, I am confident, not because I'm selling it to you, but because I am confident of what I have to say or do or overcoming things, and then having that belief in my own decisions. And, you know, many times when you are with people and they see that you're very assertive, and then they're like, well, I'm not sure about that. And I have had to learn to ignore those people because they are putting out their own fears because they don't think they can do it. But that doesn't mean that it is your own fear.
Are there any tools or processes or resources that you've liked or can recommend for helping other people who are struggling with confidence or dealing with uncertainty?
That's a really great question. I think that is very unique to each one of us. But I think the first step is to acknowledge that something is not really working. And it's not necessarily because there's anything wrong with you, but because it's, you know, we have to tune up, you know, our own interiors. We have, you know, like a car, something is not working right. So first of all, understanding that we need to tune up and then go out and look for the help and not be so, you know, this is a fine line because many times if we're in a work environment and you're a leader or you're in a position of leadership or maybe you're working with teams, you don't want to sound very vulnerable and tell everybody how you're feeling in a specific moment because that can be counterproductive. But on the other hand, I'm a big fan of just getting it out there and normalize it. Like, you know, I'm struggling with this and this is something that I want to work on and I want to find the resources. Do you know anybody that can help me with this? And it doesn't mean that there's, again, anything wrong with you, but that you're working on a betterment yourself. Now, look out to people, to mentors. I'm always cautious about family because they always have an idea of what you're supposed to be and do. They give good advice, but sometimes you have to put some distance. Find a coach. If you have the resources to do so, or you find the right one that you have the chemistry with, and that can really understand how you can work on yourself. And then just, you know, something as simple as close your eyes. Close your eyes, breathe, 1, 2, 3 times and just reflect on what is bothering you. And look inwards, because many times the answers are in us, in each one of us. But we just don't have the time, the patience, or we have the insecurity that what we're going to find we're not going to like. And believe me, that even if you don't like it, what you're going to really love is the end result when you get that covered and done with. So I put invisible drawers beneath my desk, and all my little monsters. I'm not going to call them monsters, but little fellows.
It makes them somehow cute.
Yeah.
little cute monsters that we don't need many times, I have these drawers and invisible drawers, and I say, you know what? You're going to come in right here, and I'm going to keep you there, and I'm going to take you out. I decide when I need you. You don't come out when you want to. And that has a lot to do with our ego. And I don't mean the ego in our own self-importance, but our pride. That means, when we have to be micromanagers, when in reality, it's what's required of us for a specific moment. Whatever it is, I have learned to have invisible drawers, and also that self-awareness, understanding what is my own rhythm, what triggers me, what do I need. And, sometimes we're not going to feel great. And I've learned to be able to tell people, I'm not having such a great day, and it's fine because tomorrow is going to be much better.
I'm noticing a real theme here of just of self-awareness, really leaning into that. And I like what you were talking about, getting the struggles out there, normalizing that. The truth of it is so often we are afraid that if we do that, we're going to appear weak, or that we don't deserve the position that we're in. And in truth, by being more transparent, that shows a great deal of strength. We're all human. We don't know everything. It's okay to need help and reach out for it. So I think that's great. I also love managing the monsters. I'm gonna build some invisible drawers today.
The little ones, the little happy ones.
That's right.
It's interesting. I've got a question. When you were 24 years old, you're in an editor position, and you've risen to these other positions. Looking back, because you had so many obstacles to overcome, age, experience, a woman in a man's world in Latin America, but these people saw something and put you in these positions that you even had said recently, it's like, wow, I achieved these positions over all these different things. And now that you look at yourself back to that 24-year-old, what was this management style that broke these barriers and got these people to get behind you and thrust you through this amazing career path that you've had?
That's really a great question. I don't want to sound too much into myself, but I think it's charisma. Looking back, I honestly think that it's a charisma. I always imagine that I was very shy and an introvert. And I remember some years ago, I met up with somebody that I went to high school with. And we were talking, and I said, when I was in high school, I wasn't that popular. And she looked at me and she said, what are you talking about? You were a very popular person. I had this idea of myself that was completely wrong. And I think I had a lot of charisma. I've always been very social and been a very good communicator. People like to talk to me. I'm a good listener. I'm very curious. I engage with people. I look you in the eye. I'm interested in what you have to say. And even today, my closest friends will tell you, when you are with me, I am with you 120%. I'm not looking at my phone. I am not distracted. I am engaged with you and the situation at hand. And I think that engagement with people, that connection, that ability also to network has been essential, and understanding people. I think my mom had a lot to do with that, because she was such a strong, persona, incredible character, her allure, her presence. And when I was in Selecta, everybody wanted to invite my mom to events, but she didn't want to go to events. And she became kind of my, I wanted her to come to the events. So she became my focus group. She was my first test, and I was able to achieve through much work and emotional intelligence that she would come to our events. So I think I owe it, some gratitude to my mom for giving me that experience on how to handle certain situations and circumstances. She was a lot into emotional intelligence. She was somebody that didn't give you a curfew. She would say, just don't come late. And I would look at her and say, so 11? And she'd be like, you know. So you know. And I never knew when was it a good time to come. But nothing ever happened, so it was okay. I think I have
just
to do it.
Hearing you say all these things, you can see how walls would drop in that conversation. You made people very comfortable in that space. You made them heard. You made them listened to, and that I can see how that overcame so many of the things that would normally, stall out.
Yeah.
And you know what? People. Also paying attention to your environment. Many times we go into meetings and we're so, I don't want to say full of ourselves, but we're so focused on saying the right things and, acting a certain way that we forget to look at the person in front of us. So many times in the coaching, when executives have to work with their leaders and they have to have some tough conversations, I always tell them, if you're going to go ask for a raise, just don't go in thinking this is what I have to say and act like a robot. Like instead, walk in and understand the environment. How is the day of the person going on? Do they look stressed? Do they look relaxed? Is this the right moment? Because you have one opportunity. So reading the room and being more aware of others is extremely important. And again, I go back to South Miami Hospital and those 3-4-year-olds that I had to help taking care of. They taught me a lot of great lessons about being invisible, but not invisible for them. I was extremely relevant, but I had to stay out of their way. But take care of them, be on top of things, but let them be themselves. So I think that there are a lot of lessons throughout my journey that are way before the time that I started being a leader. But I have to tell you that when I went to college, it's funny because this is the way that I have always presented myself. The first time I arrived, my fellow students thought that I was a teacher. Not a student. I don't know how helpful that was, but I think that's what it is. It's who we are.
So a passion flamed by your mom,
yes.
Helping to support women and empowering them. Are there any initiatives that you're behind that help to continue that legacy?
Well, I think my passion for empowering women is really fueled by a deep commitment to advocating for gender equality and creating inclusive environments. So part of what I do is mentor women or coach women, more than mentor, coach women and support other women in their initiatives and providing all the tools and the resources that they really need. And I think through my experience, it has been really helpful to them to listen to somebody being honest, direct, vulnerable in sharing my own experiences. And this has helped them along the way. And I also believe that in whatever position that you're in a company, you should always worry about the legacy you leave for the person that comes in after you. So don't do things only for you, do things for the collective. When you're accepting a pay rise or a pay situation or a salary that is below what your job entails, do not think about you. Think about what your legacy is to the next people that come after you, whether it's a man or a woman. regardless of gender, any gender at all, that they should have, equal pay, and there shouldn't be any differences. And I think that I've always been, a big sponsor of those ideas. And throughout my work and throughout my contact with other women, and really inspiring them to believe that everything is absolutely possible and that we have to get rid of these ideas that sometimes are not infused to us by social standards, but by our own limitations, maybe by our own education that we have received, that, how we have to act, how we have to be, when we really have to act more and be more the leaders that we are by nature. So I think that by those situations, I've been able to give back, and also through, being part of the advisory board of the Latin American Fashion Summit. It's been really great to work with the founders and to really see how we can continue to advance the position in women in fashion in Latin America. And whenever I get called to help with something regarding that issue, I am on board 100%. I always try to be there. But the way that we make a difference is not by the big places that we attend or we participate, is by the invisible actions that nobody's watching, where we allow for bigger participation of other women, and by showing example where we nurture each other and we show respect. And when somebody comes and tries to hurt you, you don't hurt them back. You understand that they're a wounded animal and that what they need is your empathy and compassion. And that's what I believe in 100%.
Yeah, that is all really poignant. I really also appreciate the focus on making sure your intentions are in the right place.
Right.
Leading with the heart.
Absolutely.
And speaking about obstacles, we were talking about when we were in Miami, something that has always challenged me about our fashion industry in general. We always look to our East, Europe, we look to our West Asia, but it's rare that the United States looks south. There's so much amazing opportunity and design and creativity as we look south of the border, but we just as a nation don't do that. Why is that happening, do you think, Eva? Because you just have so few brands that are represented well in America from Latin America.
I think we have to do much more in terms of being present. How can people think of you if we're not there? Where do we have to be that we haven't done? Because a lot of brands, if we think about it, they come to Miami and they do a lot of things in Miami or New York. But is that America? Is that where they have to go? Where do we have to go as an industry in terms of fashion in Latin America with so many talented individuals? Where do we have to go so that the right people see the talent and the opportunity? Are customers and consumers seeing the offering? Do they understand? There's a lot that has to be done, and in terms of awareness and of integrating this fashion into the day-to-day life. So I think that it has to do also with what initiatives need to take place and led by probably governments in Latin America, that they have more presence in the U.S. I know that they have done a lot of work, some countries, in trade shows, and you know more about this than probably me, but we need to do a better job. I don't think it's just a conversation about being in a trade show. I think it's bigger than that. There is an enormous opportunity, and we have to show up, and we have to change probably the conversation. Are we approaching this the right way? And I think it's more of a question than an answer.
Yeah, and I look at trade shows and I see, the whole conversation about nearshoring and people wanting to now all of a sudden look more south than they ever have before. So that's an opportunity for apparel and garment manufacturing. But boy, it's just for us, there's so much talent. When we were traveling even to El Salvador, these brilliant designers not being represented at all in America. And these weren't styles that you go were intrinsically Latin American or that would fit only within Miami or whatever. You were just seeing brilliant, beautiful designs that would go anywhere. And it you look through America and you're just like, from a designer standpoint, you can tick off all the designers of note. There's just such little representation of Latin American designers.
And also it has to do with the perception of immigrants, also in the United States, because I've had to face that. Not now. I think things have changed for the better in terms of fashion. But many, many years back, I remember, contributing with the foundation of El Salvador, and many people were like surprised, what are you doing with the foundation of El Salvador? I mean, and comments that were very shocking in terms of their own perception of people from countries like El Salvador or Central America, or many from South America. If you think about the perception of Colombians for many years, was really, really tough. And so I think that we have to change the perception of what is, what is the culture, what is the essence, what is the magic of some of these countries in Latin America, and that, what our own misconceptions of that representation because of the reality of migrants in the U.S. And many times they are the ones.
And that is a microcosm of Latin America, by the way. I mean, there's a diverse group of people in Latin America.
Absolutely, and talented and incredible. And like you say, the work that they do. And when you go to these countries, you realize, oh, wow, this is incredible. This should be out there. But a lot of the work and responsibility relies on the individuals, on the collective system, and also on the governments to be able to do a better job in representing or bringing out these designers in the right format and way. Because the talent resides in each of these countries, but many times not every country is advanced, as in the case of Colombia, because of everything that the government has done in promoting textiles and or like Peru, the same story for Peru. And some are lagging behind. And I think that there has to be more work that is done there. And hopefully it will get done. It also, designers in each of these markets have to work more closely together. One of the things that I really love about Latin American Fashion Summit is that they have created a tribe, a community, where we're working together, where we are helping each other. And it's been work, and we need to continue to generate that idea that to be stronger, we have to be united. And together, we are better than standing alone. But many times, many brands feel that being with others is not helping them out. It slows them out. And we have to change that idea.
Same conversation I had in El Salvador when we were talking with a bunch of these different designers to build a coalition. You are stronger together, especially in this case when you want to have a groundswell of awareness. And I think I'm 100% agreement that there needs to be, because in many cases, even in El Salvador, there was this lack of knowledge about how to market to the U.S. And I think these coalitions or things that you're involved in, that's so critical. There needs to be this kind of Latin designer chamber of commerce to really create some excitement and awareness about what's happening in terms of apparel.
And I think we need to create an executive program at Instituto Marangoni Miami to maybe help some of these brands. I mean, we've done it in the past, but I think there's an opportunity out there to create a program, to do something that is very robust with the right people and to help people out. But I also think that, besides doing something at the school, it has to be it has to start in each one of these local markets. And it has to start with education, with access to capital, with opportunities, and for many people to feel inclusive in the conversation, because some of the artisans sometimes are excluded. And we need to make sure that they understand that how they can help their own businesses. I mean, don't sell things cheaper than what they are. Think about what your brand or your work as a business. Have a mindset of entrepreneurship. And I think that the conversation is there. And hopefully in a couple of years, this will improve.
There's so much wonderful insight and advice that you have to share. I feel like we could just talk for hours here. But as we wrap up our time today in this particular conversation, I do have one final question. Is there any advice that you'd like to share for other women on the rise or women who hope to be on the rise in the near future?
Oh, well...
Listen to this whole podcast.
Well, I think that there are many things that I can give provide in terms of advice. But I think that maybe the most important one is, believe in you. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't listen to outside voices, but believe in the true you. And not let anyone ever doubt of your own possibilities. It's okay to have boundaries. It's okay to go slowly. It's okay to have dreams. It's okay for things not to work out. But believe in yourself, have the faith that you need, go with your gut feeling, and understand that failures and mistakes are very powerful opportunities for success. If the first time you make a mistake and it hurts, let it hurt. It's a bad and good feeling. You will never forget it. But that will make you better and stronger. I think that sometimes we just have to believe in the things that happen and in the lessons that are coming our way to become better and better and better. And now when I make, for example, from my own perspective, a mistake, instead of it hurting, I understand that it's for a reason. So have that faith and conviction, because, at the end of the day, it is true that if somebody invites you somewhere, it's because you deserve it. If you are invited to a boardroom, it's because you belong there. And have your own voice and not let anyone take it away from you. There are not going to be people that like you, and people don't have to like you. People have to respect you. And if they respect you, then you have accomplished something beautiful as a leader. Because many times we confuse people liking us for people respecting us. And what endures is that respect of your own character, and stay strong on your values. Say no when you have to say no. Be open to the endless possibilities of change, and embrace what's coming your way. And when you shine, and shine big.
I love that.
Can I take that advice for us guys too? Because honestly, that's such good advice. I feel like I've just had a wonderful therapy session. Thank you, Eva.
Thank you. I need to take
wonderful.
that advice.
Wow.
I'm giving that to myself again. I'm reminding myself of all of these things. Yeah.
All you have to do is listen to this, because that was amazing.
I
was like, oh wow, I feel great.
I feel bathed in affirmations
I do. I'm good now.
I feel good too. You guys have been really amazing and really wonderful hosts.
Thank you so much for joining us, Eva. And don't forget to subscribe to stay apprised of upcoming episodes of Clothing Culture.